cost of a smile. Have you ever felt it? That hollow, aching sensation in your chest while you're standing in a room full of people? You laugh, you talk, you participate, but inside, there is a silent scream that no one can hear. Every single morning, do you put on a face that is perfect for the world, only to realize that when you look in the mirror, you see a complete stranger? If you feel like you are killing your own soul just to keep others happy, then stop. Because this story isn't just about Osama, it is a reflection of your own life. Every word of this story is meant to heal the wounds you have hidden for years. Stay with me, because today you will find a truth that might just change your life forever. In a small town nestled at the foot of the mountains lived a man named Osama. He was known as the good guy of the town, the one everyone liked. But this goodness was, in reality, the graveyard of his soul. Osama had a home, a stable job, and countless acquaintances. People saw him as the life of every gathering, yet no one knew that the man sitting in their midst was profoundly lonely and deeply wounded. To keep the peace, he would laugh at cruel and biting jokes directed at him, terrified that if he didn't, people would label him rude or difficult. He nodded in agreement with opinions that made his conscience scream in protest. He lingered for hours in places his heart begged him to flee, simply because he didn't want to hurt anyone's feelings. He spent his entire life making room for others until there was no room left for his own existence. Osama's pain was not a common sorrow. It was a crushing weight that made even breathing feel like a chore. One night, sitting alone in his room, his eyes caught his reflection in the mirror. He looked for the spark, the light that belongs in the eyes of a living, breathing human, but he found nothing. He felt like a puppet, with his strings held firmly in the hands of others. He slumped to the floor and began to sob. His tears weren't for a lost loved one. They were for the person he had murdered with his own hands just to keep the world smiling. He was so utterly alone that he didn't have a single soul to whom he could reveal his true face. He belonged to everyone, yet he had no one to call his own. One evening, while Osama sat beneath the shadow of an ancient tree lost in his mental agony, an elderly traveler passed by. The old man's eyes were so deep it felt like he was looking straight through Osama's chest. The traveler stopped and sat beside him. Osama instinctively forced a fake smile, but the old man reached out, grabbed his trembling hand, and spoke with a voice that carried the weight of 1,000 years. "Son, you have become an expert at being what others need. But have you ever asked yourself what you actually want? You have run so far in the race to please the world that you have lost your own self along the way." As a tear fell from Osama's eye into the dust, a sudden sharp terror gripped his heart, the fear of a truth he had spent a lifetime avoiding. The sage leaned closer, his voice turning into a stern warning. "Remember, the lamp that burns too bright just to light up other people's houses eventually turns to ash. And once you are ashes, people will complain about the dust you leave behind. They will not remember the light you gave them. The day you break free from the prison of what will people say and stand by your own truth, that is the day your real life begins." Those words ignited a dormant fire inside Osama. He made a vow. The performance was over. The very next day, at work, when a colleague mocked him as usual, expecting the same submissive laugh, Osama didn't smile. Instead, he looked the man in the eye and said calmly, "I didn't like what you said. Please, don't say it again." The room went dead silent. People were stunned, Was this the same Osama who swallowed every insult? Some called him arrogant, others said he had changed for the worse. But as Osama walked away, he felt a massive weight lift off his chest. He began to leave gatherings the moment his soul felt tired. He learned the power of the word no, regardless of who stood before him. As time passed, a strange transformation occurred. The parasites who only used Osama for their own comfort began to disappear. But those who truly loved him moved even closer. Now, when he spoke, his voice carried the weight of honesty. He chose his own paths, spending his evenings by the river, finally enjoying the luxury of silence. This is the core truth of this story. Most of us live like Osama, shrinking ourselves so others can be comfortable. We do what they want and say what they want to hear until we forget who we are. But people can sense the act. What the world is actually drawn to is authenticity. When you start living your real life, a golden light of hope begins to fill the void. You realize that you don't need the applause of 1,000 strangers. You only need to be at peace with the person in the mirror. Remember, molding yourself to the world's liking is a slow suicide, but living your truth is the only way to truly be alive. The moment you stop acting is the moment your soul finally breathes.